So I don't know about you, but I see an awful lot of change in my Football Manager saves in this year's version of the game. In my Wrexham save that we're doing on the channel, I've seen West Ham United win the Premier League and Brighton become an established Champions League team, as well as winning the Europa League along the way. Like, Brighton are so good in my save. I've also seen Tottenham relegated to the Championship and Man City, Arsenal and Chelsea finish way outside the European places. It's pretty mad. And that's all within the first 10 years as well. And so I love seeing all these different changes in the game and how teams go up and down over time. But today, we're going to do something a little bit more drastic to really see a big change in the game. What I've decided to do is give all the teams in the top 5 leagues of European football, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga and Liga, I've given all those teams in those top divisions a transfer embargo for 50 years. I want to see what happens. How much change will there be in the footballing structure? Because you'd think without transfers, they'll all drop down, but some of these clubs have incredible youth academies and really good reputation to bring in the best young players possible. So will they be able to survive on their youth academies? And which clubs will actually start to dominate world football instead if these clubs drop off? So what I've done is go into the pre-game editor and give all of these teams a transfer embargo until 2070, 50 years into the future from here we are. And I've simulated 50 years into the future, and today we're going to dive into those results and see exactly what's happened. I think this could be really interesting, and I think going forward I'd quite like to do another experiment where we give maybe every single top flight division in Europe a transfer embargo and see what kind of effect that would have on the game. But today it's just the top 5 leagues, and if you think this is going to be interesting, make sure you do drop a like on the video for me. Subscribe if you're new around here for plenty more experiments, and also make sure you do leave a comment down below letting me know exactly what you want to see in the future from experiments. So just before we dive into the future, just so you can see that all these clubs do indeed have transfer embargoes, if we click into, I know, La Liga, for example, and go to any random club, Mallorca, look at their general information, you can see a transfer embargo is in place there for Mallorca. And again, if we just go into any random club in, I don't know, Liga, for example, St Etienne, and we look at their general information, transfer embargo in place. So all of the clubs in the top 5 leagues in Europe have transfer embargoes. And now if I click my fingers, we're here. 2070. Fantastic. So I think we'll go through each league individually to start off with before looking then at European competitions and then how it's affected world football as well, because that could be quite interesting too. So we'll start off with the Premier League, as it was the top rated league in all of Europe to start off with. And well, things have definitely changed because Solihull Moors are the best team in England right now, winning the title from Man City, interestingly. Bristol Rovers, Bolton, MK Dons, Scunthorpe and Burnley round off the European places. Now, I'll be honest, I did not expect this. We put the transfer embargo on the top flight. So, in my opinion, it would just be the Championship clubs coming up and then taking over with all the money and being able to sign players. But I did not expect Solihull Moors to be... Hang on, is this 3 times in a row they've won it? This is 3 times in a row Solihull Moors have won the Premier League title. 2067, 68, 69 and then 70 as well. Incredible stuff there. But also Man City have won it in recent years as well. Wow, so Man City, despite the transfer embargo, are still going right now. Their senior squad is filled out with players, and all of these players should be Man City homegrown. This guy is Man City homegrown. A few loan spells, quite a lot of Welsh players as well coming through the Man City ranks, but they're all Man City homegrown and loan spells elsewhere to help develop. That's really interesting. Man City got such a good network of youth recruitment and youth intakes that they've been able to stay right at the top despite not being able to sign any players. So congrats Man City, but this Solihull Moors team, this is what they're still playing in their 3,000-seater stadium. Damson, that seems a bit bizarre. Surely they should have a better stadium than that. They've got terrible facilities, training facilities, junior coaching, youth recruitment. And yet, their senior squad is stacked with players worth upwards of £100 million, if we look at this look. How have they done it? How have Solihull Moors done this? Okay, looking at their transfer history, they must have had a huge, absolutely huge financial takeover, because here they have spent nearly £300 million out of absolutely nowhere. Like, they spent £22.5 million there on some guy called Daniel Ramos, and then nearly £300 million on players there. What year is that? Because it's not really telling me the years. It looks like the early 60s. It is indeed the early 60s, 2060-61. They suddenly just started spending a ton of money. Nothing like major, actually, but just on lots and lots of players. And then you go back to the season before that, literally nothing the season before that. Absolutely nothing. £22 million there. So they must have had a financial takeover here and then gone absolutely parabolic with spending, and it's worked quite well. I mean, to be fair, they had got to the Premier League by that point. You can see in this season here that they were already in the Premier League and already second in... Hang on. They got promoted from the Championship and then in their Premier League era have never finished outside the top 4. So they were... This is even more confusing. I mean, this experiment has already taken a weird turn and we're only looking at the Premier League right now. I mean, we can't dwell on this too much because we've got to fit in other stuff as well, but Solihull Moors are an enigma. We could do like a whole other video just on Solihull Moors, I feel. This is mental. This is the rest of your Premier League as well. Arsenal and Liverpool are still in there as well. So just Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool surviving the transfer embargoes by looks of things. If we just have a quick look through the other leagues as well, looking through the Championship, for example, quite a lot of change in this division. Man United are in there. Leicester has been relegated. Dorking Wanderers all the way up in the Championship as well. Chelsea in the playoffs. Brighton and Fulham up in the promotion places as well. Dropping down into League One very quickly. Villa, Everton are in there. Lincoln City still in there, which is good to see. Fantastic work from them. If we drop down into League Two and we look at the league table, any Premier League clubs down here? I feel like we've not seen many. Wolves are down here. They've been hit hard, clearly. Sunderland still can't get out of the bottom 2 leagues of the Football League. You love to see that. If we drop down into the National League and look at the league table, West Ham have just been relegated. Watford just been relegated from the National League. Newcastle just missed out on promotion to League 2 once again. And then if we drop down to the National League North, surely are there going to be teams here? Charlton, I mean, not a team that we've actually done anything to. They have dropped down. Also, by the way, this National League North has got 6 clubs on over 110 points. What on earth? And this is just one season of 50. And we've seen mental things happening. That blows my mind. What? I need to put this on Twitter. I mean, Slough, bless them. Any other season, 92 points should be enough to win the title. And yet they've come 7th. I mean... And then National League South, oh bless them, Tottenham down in the National League South. But again, how many clubs are on upwards of 100 points? This is mental what's going on in the National League North and South. That's blown my mind. Also, Brentford aren't even in the playable leagues in this game anymore. They've dropped down to the Bet Victor Isthmian League, which is pretty mental. So Brentford have just dropped out completely. Okay, let's abandon the Premier League and the English leagues right now because we've spent too much time looking through that. We need to actually focus on the other leagues too, because I'm sure there's some mad things going on. Now, I'm not as familiar with these other divisions, so I don't quite know what's right and what's not right. But I don't think Las Palmas winning the Spanish First Division La Liga is usual, and they've won it for a long time. They are the dominant force in Spain now, as you can see. Barcelona is still right up there, but they have got a great youth academy. Real Madrid I cannot see in this division at all. So Madrid have really suffered. Atletico haven't. Malaga, nice to see them up in the top flight once again. I do quite like Malaga. I've got family there, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. If we drop down into the second division, where are Real Madrid? Right down mid-table second division. That's crazy. You know, B teams are thrashing Real Madrid. They've really suffered. That's so interesting. I mean, clubs like Getafe are in the 3rd tier now. That's pretty poor for them. Racing Santander, I believe they're in La Liga at the start of this. I could be wrong with that, but they dropped down to the 3rd tier as well. And then in the 4th tier, we're looking at teams like Betis, Granada, teams that should not be there. They've dropped all the way down. Looking in the Bundesliga then, and this does look completely different. No Dortmund, no Bayern Munich, but Hamburg and Schalke, who were second division teams right at the start, they've jumped up quite a bit. I think they've really taken advantage of being in the second tier at the start of this experiment. 1860 Munich, and now a dominant team in Munich as well by looks of things. Hertha Berlin being relegated. Freiburg is still in. Actually, there's not been a whole lot of change, I don't think, in the German leagues. Not as much as we've seen in the La Liga and the Premier League right now. But obviously the big teams, where are Bayern Munich? Let's have a quick look in the second division. Bayern Munich in the second division, Dortmund also in the second division. So they've dropped down and look to be struggling quite a bit, to be fair. In France as well, PSG, no longer in the top flight. I can't see a Lille or a Monaco. I can see Montpellier. This has changed quite a bit too. Monaco is still there in 6th place. But I can't see a Lille. I can't see a Marseille. They've all dropped down. But again, I don't think there's quite as much change as there has been in other leagues by looking at this. But some of the big names have dropped down into the second division, such as Lille, who've just won it. Okay. PSG just avoiding relegation. That's really interesting. They just can't develop the players, can't do anything with it. Saint Etienne right down there as well. If we drop further down in France, I believe there must be a couple more teams down here. Yep, Marseille and Nice. I didn't think I'd seen them. They've just been relegated from the 3rd tier of French football. They're dropping all the way down as well to the 4th tier, where I can't see any top flight teams from the start. So they're going to be the lowest ones that we know right now. And then Serie A, which has been won by Milan, are dominant. So despite Milan having the big transfer embargo, let's just double check this. Yep, transfer embargo still in place for Milan. They've been dominant. So either the clubs in Italy just aren't very good, or Milan have just got the most insane youth academy ever. So do Juventus. Actually, looking at the rest of that division, Empoli is still there. I can't say I know Serie A that well, but I don't think many of these teams were in the top flight at the start of this, but it has been dominated by Milan. Dropping down to Serie B then, for example, and we can see teams like Sassuolo, Bologna, Fiorentina, Parma, Cagliari, Napoli, Udinese. They've all dropped out. Rome have been relegated from this division as well. Serie C. Serie C? Can I just see the league table, please? Oh, there it is. Inter Milan are in the 3rd tier, I think. I think that's how it works. Can I see any of the top tier teams? No, but Torino down there as well, but Inter have really struggled. So let's just have a quick look through some of these past winners then, starting right down. Man City and Liverpool dominated for a long time, and that was probably going to always be the case until their players start to retire. And the mad thing here is that Brentford have dominated the Premier League here in the late 30s and early 40s, with players coming through their youth academy, and yet find themselves now in the 7th, 8th tier of football in England. How have they dropped down so... This is even more bizarre. How have Brentford dropped down that much? Man City came back, did quite well. Arsenal, Liverpool... In fact, I'm surprised that all of these clubs managed to do so well for so long, until Solihull Moors came along and decided enough's enough. They're going to be the dominant force now in world football by looks of things. That's mental. A quick look at the past winners in Spain then, and for a long time it was Barcelona still, and Atletico Madrid. Las Palmas started winning in the 2040s though. Malaga up and around the 3rd place spots, and then Las Palmas got dominant in the late 2040s and have been dominant ever since. Malaga winning 1 title in that time since Las Palmas won in 47-48 and have won it constantly since then. So Las Palmas and Solihull Moors are 2 of the biggest teams in the world right now. The Bundesliga was dominated by Bayern for quite a long time, and I guess until their players retired and they couldn't buy new ones, that's when Schalke took over as they could buy players, right? And they dominated. Hamburg were pretty decent in 2nd place for quite some time, and then Hamburg and Schalke swapped over, and since then actually it's been Hamburg from the 50s onwards essentially being dominant in the Bundesliga. Over in France, I mean, something pretty similar. PSG were winning it. Nice, Monaco winning quite a few. Lille, Nimes, Amiens also winning it. Quite surprising. And then PSG came back. And then since the 2040s, it looks like Nancy have been absolutely dominant. Monaco and FCSM doing pretty well for themselves. And quite a few different people in 2nd and 3rd place. Red Star right up there as well. But Nancy have been dominant. And then in Italy, Juventus carried on their dominance. Milan then took over, and I guess haven't let go since. There was an era of Pisa dominance for the 2050s, essentially. A few other teams getting up there as well. But Milan have been absolutely dominant throughout. which makes me think they must be one of the best teams in Europe, right? They must be like winning quite a few Champions Leagues. Because if we look at the competition reputation rankings, Bundesliga 1, Spanish First Division 2, Premier League 3, and then in 4th, Portuguese Premier League, Liga has dropped to 5th, Eredivisie is 6th, and Serie A has dropped down to 7th. So in the competition reputation rankings, there hasn't been much change, which does suggest that these teams, and the clubs from these leagues, I should say, are still doing pretty well in European competitions. So starting at the 2020s, we look at the Champions League to start off with, and it's the teams you would assume are going to be up there. The Bayerns, the Dortmunds, the Man Cities, the Chelseas, Arsenal even up there to be fair. Runners-up, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Salzburg got there in the 2030s. So maybe towards the turn of a decade, that's when we start to see a few teams start to drop off form and new teams start to come forward and win. It's until you get to the mid-2030s, that's when Schalke start to absolutely dominate the Champions League scene here, winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in about 10 years, which is pretty mental. Hamburg then also took over, won a few. Is this Paderborn? Paderborn won one in there as well. Porto have picked up a Champions League. Then it gets to Las Palmas. They started to win a few, and the Las Palmas dominance starts to come in to the late 50s and early 60s. Man City picking one up there as well. Schalke, by the way, clearly the best team in the world. Like, they've come runners-up and won it so many times. And then Schalke win it again. Hamburg have won it. And it's the German domination. There's no wonder that the German Bundesliga is the best reputation league in all of Europe, because the German teams have dominated this Champions League, with 1860 Munich winning it most recently. Dropping down into the Europa League, then scrolling down to the 2020s, what you'd expect. The teams that were still there at the time with their players doing pretty well. Bristol City won a Europa Cup in 2035. Congrats to them. There's a few of the teams runners-up. Salzburg, again, runners-up in the Europa League. They've done pretty well to get to finals of European competitions. And then again, it just sort of falls into those sort of... Actually, there's quite a few teams from Portugal winning it in the 2050s, but it's the usual suspects stay there quite a while. I mean, Estoril and SVS are not quite usual suspects, obviously, but as we get further and further, you can start to see a few more teams winning it. But from outside of the top 5 leagues in Europe that we started this experiment with, there aren't many teams getting in there winning it, apart from those from Portugal, who have won a couple. Estoril right up there. Hansa Rostock are from Germany, okay. Quite a lot of runners-up from other countries, but not seeing many winners from other countries outside those top 5 in Portugal. Hopefully we'll see difference in the Europa Conference League, and again dropping down into the early 2020s. If we scroll up, you can see that again it's the usual suspects for quite a while. I mean, who is this team? Graz from Austria, so they came in there and they did pretty well to come runners up to Bristol City, who won quite a few European competitions by looks of things. If you're a Bristol City fan, congratulations. Scrolling up, who are this team who came runners up to Nancy? Oh, they're from Italy. Okay, so again, we're seeing more Italian clubs in there. Scrolling up, a lot of Portuguese, German clubs. Blackburn winning it at one point, beating OB in the final. That's an interesting one. Blackburn runners up and a few years later on to Nimes. Red Star, most recent winners. It's interesting. This hasn't quite excited me as much as the leagues have done. I expected maybe a few Dutch teams to get in there. Feyenoord have won one in 2050. I thought a few of those guys might get up there a little bit, but it just feels like the clubs who were at the top have just been replaced by different clubs in those top 5 leagues, which is interesting. And this is what I think having a European-wide transfer ban could change things up a little bit. So looking at the European Football Championships, the Euros, since 2021 when Italy beat England in the final, Norway won it in 2024, and to be fair, Austria winning it in 2068. That's the only time it's kind of fallen out of the ordinary, apart from England winning it 5 times here, obviously, because that's not going to ever happen. Poland runners up 1 time as well. Not a whole lot of change here in the European Championships. That feels a little bit disappointing. But in the World Cup, again, the winners aren't too dissimilar to what you would expect. The winners kind of have stayed the same. Your Argentinas, your Frances, your Brazils, they've all kind of been up there. Now, runners-up are interesting. USA, Norway, Denmark, USA again. Ukraine are right there in runners-up. And then third place teams like Mexico, USA, Colombia, Paraguay, Chile, the South American teams have done very well in World Cup history. So world football hasn't changed too much, but the club level has changed dramatically. And I'm still sat here thinking, how on earth have Solihullmore's done it? So I think we are going to finish things up here for today, but this has been a really interesting and fun video to do. I forgot how fun these are to film, so we are definitely going to do a European-wide transfer ban and see how that goes. Any other suggestions, of course, leave them down in the comment section below. Make sure you like all the comments that you think are great. If you've got a good idea, like the comments, push them to the top and I'll see it. And we could try and do a few of those ones as well in the future. So keep the suggestions coming and we'll see what we can do. Until next time though, make sure you do drop a like on the video for me, subscribe if you're new around here, and leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm. I'll see you soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.